Thanks for joining us today on a very special episode of Revolutions Per Movie. I'm joined again by Jeff Feuerzeig, award-winning director, nonfiction filmmaker. Without his body of work, my video store would not have been my video store. I'm talking about Half Japanese, the band that would be king, author of the J.T. Leroy story, one of my favorites, The Real Rocky, and of course, The Devil and Daniel Johnston, which IndieWire recently voted the best music documentary of the 21st century. And so it is with great pleasure that I welcome back to the show, Jeff Feuerzeig. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Chris. I'm so glad to be back. It was so much fun last time when we riffed on Charlie's My Darling, the Stones film.
Oh my God, you turned so many people onto that film. People were blown away.
Well, I'm glad to hear it because isn't that the purpose of this podcast, right? To turn people on,
Exactly.
right? And share the love. And
yeah, and there was even some people who were like, how dare he say this is better than Dylan's film, the D.A. Pennebaker film. And then all of a sudden they watch it and they're like, oh yeah, shit. Okay, this is pretty great.
That's funny.
Well, when we were talking about it, the other choice that came up was a discussion about Kiss and CADILLAC 1975, which is a totally weird labyrinth story. Before we get into the film, do you have a connection to the band Kiss at all?
Oh, very much so.
Okay, so what was your origin story with Kiss?
Well, all right, that's a good place to start, actually. Here we go. So, I'm born in 1964, and Kiss Alive comes out in 1975. So I'm only 11 years old.
Right.
And this is no hyperbole. When that record hit, now remember, at 11, I'm not aware of the 4 albums previous, the studio albums that Kiss have released yet. But Kiss Alive, but honestly, most people weren't. But Kiss Alive is this live album, this moment recorded in Detroit where the band explodes. And that's where this moment in urban and suburban towns all across the United States go Kiss bonkers. And now in my particular grammar school, Raritan High School in Hazlet, New Jersey, one kid shows up with the Kiss Alive album, the duo-fold record with all the photos, and he's obsessed. That's Danny Yannon. And we're just like, whoa, man, what's that? Oh my God, that. And he plays it to us. And we hear the single, the hit song from that record for the first time, Rock and Roll All Night, their anthem. And I literally I have this stereo in like the rec room in suburban New Jersey. And I spend, every afternoon after school, just glued to the radio, spinning the dial from station to station, hoping I can hear this song again and again and again. And that's what I'm doing. I'm obsessed. But then within like a week, kids are showing up at school dressed as Kiss. They got the makeup on. They're going to class as Kiss. They're on the playground. Oh, I mean, there's like lip sync contests in the classroom. My friend Pete Arian is dressed like Chris the cat, and Danny Yannon, Ace Frehley, and they're doing lip sync contests in the classroom, blasting this record on the grammar school low fidelity turntable. It's awesome. On the playground, at lunch, and in the mornings before we report to class, before the bell rings, every kid in school is bringing Bic lighters, and with the lighter fluid on the Bic lighters, they're blowing fire, spitting fire, like Gene Simmons imitating Gene's. And other kids are reporting they're coming back. Oh yeah, I tried lighter fluid from the my backyard barbecue, and everybody's like, people were bonkers for Kiss. I don't know how to explain this.
And it was so grassroots. I mean, it really did come out of nowhere. I mean, obviously they were on Casablanca, but those 4 albums before Kiss Alive tanked. They were not reaching a large audience.
No, they were glam, and they had some great songs, and it all coalesced and really came to a head right on Kiss Alive. And arguably, I think that's still their greatest moment. I was still on board a year later with Destroyer. I like a lot of those songs.
Yeah.
And then, I think the 4 solo records came out. It's not arguable that Ace delivered the best one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Snowblind.
Well, of course, the hit, which of course was a cover. Yeah, we didn't know New York Groove at the time was a cover song, but it was.
Not at all.
But I mean, that's the best song of the 4 solo records, and it's a shame that Ace, you know, um, gets booted out of the band. But we're jumping ahead. We're jumping ahead. On this playground thing with the lighters. My school district in Hazlet, suburban New Jersey, in Monmouth County, there's like 7 grammar schools filtering into this big high school, Raritan High School. And we hear about this one kid from the Beer Street School, unfortunately, who was doing what everybody was doing with the Bic lighters. And he unfortunately, and this happened all over the United States, and this was reported in the papers, kids were burning themselves, and there was like a wind, and he was doing Gene Simmons, and this kid burned like half his face. Very tragic, very sad. And we would see him in the halls, and he's older than in high school, and it was very tragic that he, when he was so young, got into Kiss, and this accident happened. But I heard about it. This happened multiple times around the country. The spitting the blood thing was easy. Nobody was going to get hurt. Let's be honest, But yeah, even like the kids in my school, they bought a flash pot, like at the magic store, a little, plaster of Paris thing with two leads and a wire and some theatrical smoke. And
Wow.
when they did Rock and Roll All Night in my grammar school classroom, boom, they blew up the smoke pot right there in the classroom and jammed out. So anyway, that was awesome, and I never forgot that. So there's obviously a big place in my heart.
Well, and these kids are just doing it. They're just dressed. They're seeing an album. They haven't seen them live yet, I'm assuming, because they're 10 or 11, and they're just wanting to put on makeup. And they see photos of them spitting blood, but they haven't seen it live yet. So in their head, they're building their own mythology about, like, I was always like, well, why does he spit blood? Like, I don't know. Like, coming up with the little backstories, and you're creating your own fiction of this band.
Yeah, no doubt. And, that mythology of the band in a suburban world with no internet, and you're reading Circus magazine and Cream magazine, and they're on
Totally.
they're getting on some TV shows, and you're getting little bits here and there, and you're just trying to put it together, which was great. It created that myth. They were the first 8-track tape I've ever bought. And I bought Kiss Alive. I rode my bike all the way to Mattawan, New Jersey. I went to a department store at the time called Nichols. I would haunt the record department, which had vinyl and 8-tracks, and I bought that Kiss Alive 8-track. And that was it. I was off and running. But I was 11. I was a little kid. The fact was this: the Kiss they rocked. They had some great songs. Black Diamond, Cold Gin. These guys wrote some great songs. Paul Westerberg, of course, with the Replacements years later, obviously loved Kiss as well. Covered Black Diamond beautifully. It's a great song. So they had some great songs.
Yeah, Deuce by Red Cross.
Deuce was great.
Yeah, killer. It's one of the first songs I learned.
Yeah, absolutely. They really had some great songs. So obviously that brings us up to this crazy story, because let's be honest, I'm not a snob. I love Kiss, and I have this list. I keep it. I give it to friends. I give it to people I meet. Give it to other documentary filmmakers. It's this little separate. Jeff Feuerzeig and my buddy Henry Rosenthal, producer of Devil and Dan Johnston, we have a similar taste in documentary and storytelling. And, there's too many people that put the same exact films on the best of lists all the time. And, it's the canon. We're not trying to say those films aren't great, but enough already. Tell us about something else, right?
Right.
That's where Charlie's My Darling came from, correct? Not just Don't Look Back.
Absolutely.
So I have this list. This is Elvis, forgotten, incredible documentary film based on a true story, The Real Dog Day Afternoon, incredible documentary. No one knows it. Deep Water, British film about this boat race around the world. A little known film called Rocketerania about this incredible artist, only available on the director's website, director Brett Ingram. He's got this incredible film. No one knows it. Some of these films people do know, of course. Like I assume your listeners know Marwin Call. Great film.
Sure.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't know The Greatest, by William Klein, the Muhammad Ali documentary.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know it. Maybe they don't know Gorilla, The Taking of Patty Hearst. Who knows?
That's fantastic.
Great film. Maybe they don't remember Crazy Love. Incredible documentary.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we all know Crumb, but you know what? You can't watch it enough. Tabloid, my favorite Errol Morris film. You know,
That's
people
fantastic
don't talk
as
about
well.
They don't talk about Tabloid.
No, it's very true. No, it's always Thin Blue Line.
No, exactly. Tabloid is a masterpiece, and it's funny. I'm trying to think. There's only a few more I'm going to mention. No, there's Jandek on Corwood. Is it the greatest film of all time? No. Is it a great film? Absolutely.
It does Jandek justice.
It does. And same with Derailroaded, Wildman Fisher documentary, right? Sorry, I'm dropping these in for a reason. Hopefully people are looking for other things to check out. And these are really, good films. So on this list, here's our story. I always had this accidental discovery, from YouTube, this little short documentary called Kiss in Cadillac, Michigan, 1975. Now, I stumbled upon this thing years ago. Why? Because as much as I absolutely despise YouTube and how it rips off all of us, artists, creators, whatever you want to call us, copyright holders, there was two things. These are probably still up on YouTube. One was like 11, 13-minute assemblage of Paul Stanley of Kiss's between song live concert banter.
Oh my God. The best.
The best. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. And what was great about that is I used to imitate Paul Stanley doing it anyway. And then someone had the genius idea of taking the bootlegs and everything and stringing it all together.
It's incredible.
My observation at the time was he sounded exactly like Flip Wilson, the comedian, doing Geraldine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, and I used to do a pretty spot on imitation of Paul, If you want a party, you want to drink gin, but don't drink and drive.
That's my favorite part. Don't drink and drive.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So
yeah.
I
Do
love
you like tequila?
Yeah.
How many out there like tequila?
That's it. He's the best. So the other thing I love that I found that people did because of that search, someone took Ace Frehley's laugh and strung like 13 minutes of Ace Frehley laughing. He's got
what, like from like the Tomorrow Show and things like that?
Exactly.
I bet you didn't know that, did you?
I don't believe
it. If you cross the street,
look at this guy. He's a good guy. I'm getting bruised by you. Wake up.
Wow.
It's a string out like Paul's between song banter of just his laugh. It's the greatest laugh, I swear to God, you've ever heard. I love it.
It is incredible. And I will tell you, so they did put out a Kissology set.
Uh-huh.
And this thing we're going to talk about, part of it was featured on this Kissology set. But one of the things that they talk about on the commentary is when Kiss were on Tom Schneider's Tomorrow Show and Ace was having a blast. Meanwhile, Gene is trying to get it back on track. He's like, Tom, if we can get back to the matter here, we're a really important band. In the commentary, both Paul and Gene are like, we were idiots. We should have been more light. Ace is having a blast. This wasn't that big of a deal. But it was like that performance. If you can look up Ace laughing on the Tomorrow Show, he is on fire and it's infectious. His laugh makes you laugh.
No doubt. And they excerpted that, but then they found like tons more. Like years later, this laugh is his laugh. It's like his DNA. It's like a tattoo.
Yes.
And it's incredible. It never gets old. And it's like he must walk around with like a tank of helium and and clown balloons or something, because the guy can cue that laugh up at any moment.
Right.
So that's what happens. So anyway, so then what happens? Now I'm on this rabbit hole of rare Kiss ephemera, and I stumble on, what's this? Kiss in Cadillac, Michigan, 1975. This short little documentary. I'm like, let me check it out. I'll click. Now, what happened next, I did not expect. I'm watching this thing, And this is, we're going to have to help our audience because it's, now, well, there's a whole story to it. Now it's unwatchable. It's been taken down. We'll get to the reasons. There's
Yes.
lawsuits around this thing. But anyway, let's just talk about it because I've seen it multiple times. There it is. This event at the height of Kiss mania in America. Some assistant football coach from Cadillac, Michigan, this suburban town in Michigan. He has this football team that's on a losing streak, and he gets the brilliant idea. He sees Kiss on tour, thinks they're great, and he decides for morale, he's going to get the school excited off their losing streak and the football team excited, and somehow inspire them to win finally. And he invites Kiss to Michigan to play at the high school for the big homecoming game, the football game. And I mean, I don't know who paid for this. Casablanca Records, Kiss themselves. I have no idea. And there's no credits in this film. It doesn't say directed by, it doesn't say written by, it doesn't say produced by, it doesn't say anything. It's a mystery. And a professional 16 millimeter film crew, kind of Pennebaker style, many cameras. They cover this event every angle. Kiss come into town in limousines. They're greeted by the school. The school, all the kids are made up in Kiss makeup. Kiss play a full-size concert with all the pyro in the gymnasium.
Yes.
It's all filmed. And then there's a homecoming day. And then Kiss are there with the mayor and the principal and the assistant coach, Jim Neff, and they're all Kiss are putting on makeup on the faculty, the men, the women, the teachers, the cheerleaders. And every line is priceless. And then the whole thing, this footage, which to this day we don't know where it came from. Kiss go out to the football game. They're with the football team. The football team wins. And then there's a surprise, the ending, one of the greatest endings. It's as great as the ending of Apocalypse Now, but it's a surprise. Out of nowhere, a helicopter flies in to the high school football field and lands in the middle of the football field. Jim Neff, the assistant coach who invited them, had no idea. No one told anybody. This wasn't cleared. There was no permissions. And this helicopter lands in the middle of the football field. And Kiss run across the football field and hop on the helicopter. The helicopter lifts off, kind of like that scene in Apocalypse Now with the Playboy bunnies and the dancers and the Vietnam vets. Everyone's looking up at Kiss going away, leaving their town in the sky with big smiles on their face. And Kiss shower the football field, the fans, the players, the coaches, the teachers, the mayor, the principal is showering them with little leaflets that say, Kiss loves you, Cadillac, Michigan. And that's the end of the film, right? Yeah. Now, we just talked about the 60 millimeter camera work covering the event. And it's like, the reason I love this is one of my greatest favorite documentaries ever created. It's only, I don't know how long this thing is. What is it, like 8 minutes long? It's very short, right?
It's very short.
But it's epic. And it has two things I love. One, it has the number one rule. If you're going to point the camera, point it at something actually really interesting. So they did that, right? Kiss are awesome. All the cheerleaders, the principals are awesome. Everybody's like wearing the makeup. The whole thing's just like,
oh, the parade is killer.
Yeah, I mean, your mouth is agape the entire time you're watching this for 9 minutes, right? So it really holds you. Then the glue, and this is the accident, we'll never really know who the filmmaker was, is the narration. So it's great. There's no talking heads, which is fantastic. We know that audiences actually hate talking heads. And it's all glued together with one interview by assistant coach of the football team, Jim Neff. The best part is it's told over the telephone. So the fidelity is really bad, right?
Yes.
And that alone, just edited together with the footage, and he just tells his story. It's flawless documentary filmmaking. And I just fell in love with it, and I share it with friends, and everybody watches it, and they pretty much always have the unanimous reaction to this thing. Well, anyway, so it was always on this list I had just shared with you and your listeners. And then one day, for some reason, it came up in conversation. I go to share the link, and it's like, Jesus Christ, it's been taken down. Lawsuit. Can't find it. I'm like, I never downloaded this thing. What am I going to do? It's one of my favorite films of all time. I can't even watch it ever again. So then it became a rabbit hole. I had to find this. And I'm searching the internet, and I'm scouring the internet, and I'm just hitting walls. I'm not getting this thing. And on my last search, I think it might have been the Internet Archive. Somehow it points me to some rare, crazy site. I don't even know what the dark web is. And I somehow land on this website, believe it or not, that has a download. I click. I'm just like waiting with bated breath. Will this download happen? And boom, I got it. I got Kiss and Cadillac, 1975, my own MP4. Oh my God, I'm so happy. Now I can share it with friends again, right? So that was that. Even now, it's been taken down. So this starts this new rabbit hole. So like, I've built this thing up in my mind as one of the great unseen, music documentaries of all time. B, you can't see it. C, it's like who directed it, who made it. So I start doing all kinds of crazy searches, and I end up on Kiss fan forums and Reddits and threads. And
Right.
so I'm going to read you some information. I don't pretend to be an expert, and nor am I going to say these are my opinions. I'm just going to read you what Kiss fan people say happened here, and take it as just information. Yeah. So this is what I believe. All right. So number one, there's no doubt that this assistant football coach, Jim Neff, clearly invited the band, and his story it holds up. The footage speaks for itself, and his story holds up. Says that, right? B, whoever loaded this thing up, I'm not sure who created it. We'll never know, but whoever loaded it up is absolutely a person with a great name. His name is Kurt Gooch. For purposes of our podcast, will be known as the Gooch, right?
Yes, sounds great.
And he is a controversial figure. Now, I'm not saying this. I'm saying that his fans say this. For all I know, he's the greatest guy in the world. I don't really know. Okay.
Yes.
So, according to my research, the Gooch actually wrote a great book about Kiss that people hold in high regard.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I've never read the book, but I believe it. So he was clearly a big Kiss fan. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that the Gooch, Kurt Gooch from Oklahoma in 1975, was absolutely not the camera crew with the 60mm cameras and the assistant camera people loading the magazines and buying the film. This was a very expensive shoot, right?
Yes.
There's no way he was the producer of this footage or shoot. So I could probably say that with authority as a filmmaker. Didn't happen. But for some reason, which we'll get into, he's claiming copyright. And he uploaded, like many people who don't have the rights, uploaded this stuff to YouTube. I have a problem with that. That's Debbie Harry's spoken about it openly, which the reason YouTube exists is because they're exploiting a loophole in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And I suffered that as well with my first film, Half Japanese, the band that would be king when YouTube started. So I learned about this. I was like, huh? How can someone upload my copyright that I own and pay for and have people watch it? That doesn't make sense. How is this possible?
Right.
Channel 13, PBS, or Channel 4 or HBO can't just show my film without they have a clearance department. They license it, they pay you, or they're breaking the law. They can't just show your film. How can the new thing YouTube do it? It's a mystery. I'm like, what's going on here? I do a little searching. I'm like, oh my God, they're allowed to do this through a loophole in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And this isn't just cat videos now. This is anybody's stuff. And it's now on the onus of the copyright holder to send a letter for every infringement or an email and fill out a form to YouTube to take your stuff down. Well, my film was uploaded, Half Japanese, 90-minute film, in like 9 parts, 10-minute parts. That's 9 times I have to fill out, a copyright infringement thing to YouTube, asking them to take down, but they're asking me to prove I even own the copyright.
Right.
I might as well be a lawyer full-time to take down my little independent film, right? Now, you can read this in The Guardian. Now, imagine you're Debbie Harry and you're Blondie and you've written Heart of Glass and 10 million other great hit songs. But your song has been uploaded by other people 90 million times. So according to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and this loophole, Debbie Harry has to submit 90 million forms for each infringement to get it taken down. Well, that's not physically possible. Well, that, if everyone's wondering why YouTube exists, this is why it exists. It's not an inarguable, issue. It's just how it existed and now still exists. So yes, convenience is why all these things succeeded on the internet and everybody's been exploited and no one gets paid. But that's how they did it. So back to Kiss. So somebody who didn't have the rights, named the Gooch, somehow got a hold of this edited thing, Kiss in CADILLAC, Michigan, uploaded it. Yeah, I got to enjoy it. Thank God. That was great, right? But the truth is he had no right to put it up there. And eventually Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of Kiss sued the Gooch, and I have the lawsuit. It's a public suit. I downloaded that as well. And they made him take it down. Now, Kiss obviously saw value in this documentary that they, clearly had produced or financed or both and took part in. And to this day, you can't get this version, which is known as the Gooch version. Now, remember, Gooch didn't produce it or direct it or edit it, but it's known as the Gooch version, right?
Yes.
But Kiss then went ahead with ESPN and took the same footage and made the shittiest version ever with all these talking heads, including assistant coach Jim Neff. And it's, as far as cinema goes, watching cinema, it's not the same film, like by a long shot. It's not the same film. But no, one's a masterpiece, one's total garbage. So it's unfortunate that no one who's listening to us right now can see this. I mean, you can try digging on the internet. I don't know.
I even went, looking at Jim Neff has like 2 websites that he basically is walking tours and merchandise and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, Jim gets a pass, obviously.
No, Jim, you're right. You're right. Assistant coach Jim Neff has 2 websites. You're right about this. He has the ESPN version. He has his interviews. He has a whole mythology of everything about the film we're talking about. But what he doesn't have on his website, unfortunately, is the film we're talking about.
Exactly. It's so weird.
It's amazing. This guy's dining out on this story, and he should. It's his story. But even the Gooch can't show it, right? So this is hilarious, right? This has a lot to do with copyright, really,
Well, and I also feel like if it wasn't Kiss, it's easy to be, again, unsympathetic towards Kiss. You're like, well, shit, just let someone put it out. This is great footage, whatever, who cares? But the fact is that it's not his, and he claims ownership over and over again. And I was reading stuff about like allegedly sending FBI to other people who were doing stuff. And again, on the sites, just look up Kurt Gooch Kiss documentary on any Reddit site, and you have a good couple days going down the rabbit hole on the stories that people have or speculations.
Yeah.
Again, people are split. They're like, I don't know the guy, but I've heard.
Right. Well, I did that and I redid it.
Yeah.
And it's some of the, once again, I'm not judging. It's just so funny at the end of the day, this whole thing. So this guy, the Gooch, now once again, this is not my opinion. This is what the fans say happened, or one fan says. But the Gooch is also chiming in on some of these threads under a pseudonym, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So, the Gooch kind of gets involved in this, conflict. So according to one of the fans, which is the most, it's not credible, but plausible explanation I've heard, which could be true or not, is this. The Gooch got hired to be like an assistant producer to like an A&E documentary about Kiss after writing this supposedly excellent book on Kiss. So he's like some authority on Kiss, clearly a big fan. That's cool. And what happened is when he had access to the server, because he was gathering from fans at, I don't know, flea markets, who knows who, fan sites.
Sure.
You gather rare footage, Super 8, all early Kiss footage. Clearly he didn't shoot. Clearly he doesn't have the copyright to. But he got the footage, like he has it, and he had a lot of it. So obviously A&E needed this stuff because it seems that maybe Kiss didn't have it either. Because if you're some Super 8 guy in the middle of Nevada in 1975 shooting a band that's just not too famous yet, and you have some Super 8, well, that's valuable stuff. You don't have the underlying rights to the music to this film if you shot Sync. That's Kiss's publishing. But if you shot the Super 8, guess what? Whoever shot it actually does have the rights, but certainly not the Gooch. Okay, so anyway, so he's got all this stuff according to the website, not me. And he gets the password to upload his large unseen archive of great Kiss stuff to make this Kiss documentary, and I guess. But because it was a two-way street on the server, he was able to also download everything else that A&E or Kiss or whoever had accumulated.
Oh, wow.
So now he's got all this stuff. And once again, according to someone else, not me. And then he's selling it to collectors saying, I've got this exclusive footage no one's ever seen. I'm selling it to you for thousands and thousands of dollars, like a Super 8 reel of early Kiss. They pay the money. Then he tells another fan, I'm selling it to you exclusive. And they all think they got this original thing. It's not even his to be selling, according to the website, not me. And then eventually, I guess Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley decided, they've had enough. And they had every right to shut this guy down. I guess they had every right. I mean, there's no conclusion to the lawsuit that I was able to find, but they absolutely sued him. In the suit, they name a giant wad of footage, early Kiss, in the suit, but they claim ownership to all of it. I'm not a lawyer. It's not for me to say what Gene and Paul own or not. They clearly own the underlying rights of the publishing. Do they own the Super 8? Someone shot them. It's not for me to say, but they're saying the Gooch doesn't own it. And certainly back to Kiss in Cadillac, Michigan is what we're talking about. There's no way on earth the Gooch produced, wrote, shot, edited, was any part of this back in 75. So I side with Gene and Paul against the Gooch on Kiss in Cadillac, Michigan. I got no problem with them keeping all of us from ever seeing it again legally, because we have no right to see it. It's their right to do what they want. It's their life. It's their great thing. There was even a website where they were trying to make a feature movie of this thing, and that was years ago. It's never been made, clearly. But yeah, it's a great idea. Maybe someone will make a great Kiss movie. There has been Kiss movies made. Why not another great Kiss movie based on this? I don't know. It's not for me to say. All I know, back to what we're talking about, this thing, this unseen kissing, largely unseen, Kiss in Cadillac, Michigan, 1975, directed by who knows who, edited by who knows who, produced by who knows who. Masterpiece.
Yeah. And it's so weird. I'm so conflicted too, because I was a child that grew up on bootleg records. Like, oh my God, a Devo bootleg, REM bootleg, Rolling Stones bootleg. Even with my video store, there were those gray areas like Video Search in Miami where I would get, foreign films or things that just wouldn't ever find their way here. And I'd be like, I have it. Oh my God, this is amazing. And of course, no one would rent it because it'd be some obscure, unsubtitled Italian film that no one wanted to see but me. But it is really interesting that I feel like, that world has really obviously died down too, in terms of like, you can't go into a record store and find stuff like this like I used to when I was a teenager.
Yeah, no, bootlegs were incredible. And there's a whole book about it by Clinton Halen I love called Bootleg. And
yeah, it's a great
book.
book.
You collected bootlegs. Early on, bootlegs, unfortunately, were misunderstood by the artists because, only super fans bought the bootlegs, and it was not a negligible amount. And if you were a super fan collecting bootlegs of whoever it was, the Grateful Dead, Springsteen, Zappa, whatever, you were clearly buying all the albums already as well. It was just super fun.
So true. Absolutely right.
Yeah, so when Springsteen, had a heart attack about walking into a record store in Freehold and seeing a stack of bootlegs of his work, it was a long time ago, it was in the 70s, he was on the wrong side of history. The Grateful Dead encouraged bootlegging.
Yes.
It encourages fandom. They always, of course, buy the regular records anyway. It's a moot point. It's silly.
Right.
bootleg film is a little different than audio, but it's the same legally. So there's a lot of gray areas here, but I don't know what to tell you. I didn't like how it felt. I felt like Debbie Harry. I didn't like YouTube's a brand new thing. I go
Totally.
on it and I'm like, why is my thing there? I didn't sign a release and get paid for this. What? And they're
Yeah.
exploiting and they make money. And I'm not trying to say Half Japanese, the band that would be king, got millions and millions of views, but if it got literally like, 7,000 views, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind a check. You know,
Yes,
I'll buy
absolutely.
I'll buy some tacos. That's cool. Fans are fans. Fans are awesome. There's nothing for any of these artists in any medium without the fans. What the fans are not evil. As a matter of fact, I don't believe the Gooch is evil. What happened is anybody can exploit the Digital Millennium Copyright Act because the digital behemoth, YouTube, owned by Google, now one of the biggest corporations in the world, pays bupkis, and they're the ones screwing everybody. They take all the money. So if Debbie Harry lost all her money from all those views on YouTube, the largest music streaming site in the world, that's money out of her pocket and went into Google's pocket. And if I lost my Half Japanese event and Would Be King screening money, that's money out of my pocket, and that's impoverishing independent filmmakers,
Yeah.
impoverishing musicians. That goes with Spotify, goes with Apple, goes with every single one of the streamers. There's no reason outside of this loophole that they're able to do this. And I stand by it. Artists need to be compensated and paid well.
Do you feel like they'll ever go back in the bottle, or is it just too late?
No, it'll never happen because they're so large, and our government, of course, is lobbied and owned by these massive. They're too large to fight against. They're not going to ever do it right. There's no
Yeah.
conscience of a Daniel Ek that owns a Spotify. It's just not going to happen. It gets worse and worse every day. So yeah, and that's just how I feel about it. And that's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. And other people, I've got good friends who are in the music world and they've somehow embraced like, you know what, it's the new world and streaming's fine and we get only a pittance, but I don't agree with it, but they're
Right.
entitled to how they feel. So that's that. And Debbie Harry's entitled to how she feels. So, but I that's why I empathize with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons of Kiss. They created something really beautiful, really great, really lasting. If you wake up in the morning and you invented Kiss, how would you feel? It's like a big, beautiful thing. These are good guys. They're artists. They created some really great songs. They brought a lot of joy to the world. And someone shouldn't be stealing their shit. It's that simple.
Yeah. Well, and also it was such a cool act, like we said earlier. This is not footage of them, doing Lick It Up, right? This is footage of them still in their infancy, trying to grassroots a movement and kind of doing it out of love and, just I think they're touched that some football coaches like, hey, we're playing this music in the locker room to get our team pumped up. I just want you to know that. Is there any way you could play? I mean, it's such an innocent move, right? Who would call up a band and be like, hey, would you come play our little town? And
Right?
a band, even, though Kiss weren't huge yet, they were getting huge. And they go, absolutely, this sounds great. It's really lovely. And you're right. It is a shame, though, that there is not a way for anyone to see this. Like, I just wish Kiss would do something with it, because there is a small little bit on the DVD of the Kissology. I think, like you said, a 7-minute thing. I would love to see this other footage, and some of the footage I have seen that is from outside of this documentary, it's really cool to just see an older 70s small town come alive. It's like you get to see the buildings and how desolate the landscape is there. And then you just see kids running alongside a car. And I don't know, it just takes its time telling the story. The footage is killer.
Yeah, I mean it's a really heartwarming, beautiful piece of film. It's like the last gasp of America being innocent. And it's like in miniature, it's kind of like Bogdanovich's The Last Picture Show when you feel like you're in that main street of that town. And that's a very emotional thing for me. And you know, I pulled, or I should say, I transcribed there's only a few lines in this film, but they're all quotable, and I transcribed them for our podcast. So I'll give it to you. So the assistant football coach, Jim Neff, he opens the film with the setup of why he brings this band to the town for the football game. And he's trying to inspire his team of losers. It's like Bad News Bears, And he says, well, I thought that'd be great. With the rule, keep it simple, stupid. Kiss, he says. That's genius, right? So I'm already like, this guy's a genius. I love this guy. Keep it simple, stupid. I never thought of that when I thought of the Kiss logo, right? So that was that. Then he has another line later. He says he's given a speech in front of the mayor and, the board and it's like a dais of KISS members. Everybody's up there,
Yes.
Music teacher, everybody's there. And he says, our team will win the football game. We are all fired up. And I will say one more thing. He says, very deadpan, he goes, rock and roll. That is genius. You love this guy. He's the best, right? Then the mayor,
he's great.
Then they get the mayor of Cadillac, Michigan. He comes into that.
Yes.
Right? He presents the band KISS with the key to the city of Cadillac.
Yeah. And full on Paul Stanley makeup.
He's wearing Paul Stanley makeup. Paul Stanley accepts this giant key, right? And he says, quote, it's fantastic. I'm not going to even do my Geraldine voice. He says, I just want to say on behalf of KISS, after getting the key to the city, I hope you never change the locks. Fucking genius.
Yeah,
Paul Stanley. How do you not love that guy?
But it is so funny. They've always talked like this. They've always been the biggest band in the world, even when they didn't have a band.
True. I'll give you a final little ending, because I think we've said as much as you could possibly say about a 9-minute film. So let's look at the year. I apologize. I should know the year, but I have to know the year. So it's very simple. If we look up the year of the Filthy Lucre tour of the Sex Pistols, the first Sex Pistols reunion. So, all right. So it's July of 96, July, August, summer of 96. It's a while ago now, right? And, I love the Pistols. I love KISS. And the Pistols, who only really made one official album, they're going to reunite and do this tour called the Filthy Lucre Tour.
Yes.
And I'm totally cynical about nostalgia and reunion shows. And I'm like, I'm not going. It can't possibly be as good as it was. Now, I didn't get to see them. I was 13.
Right.
So, and I'm just like, that's like, I never got to see the Modern Lovers either. I got to live with that. So it's never going to happen. I got to make peace with that. And I made peace. I've never seen the Pistols. That's how it goes. Fine. So I'm in New Jersey. I'm driving across the Pulaski Skyway, coming in from the city back to Hoboken, New Jersey. And a WFMU DJ went to I believe the Palladium in New York City, which was where the first show took place of the Pistols, Filthy Lucre Tour. And he had a mini disc Walkman technology under a baseball cap.
Oh, wow.
And he had eyeglasses, 2 little micro condenser mics. So he sneaks in a recording device.
Wow.
A DJ from WFMU, the best radio station in America.
Absolutely.
And he records the Pistols, right? And he's playing his recording, this bootleg, over FMU as I'm driving across the Pulaski Skyway. And I'm just like, it's like my hair is blowing back like it was that Maxell tape ad.
Yeah.
It was like, it can't possibly sound this great. It's not possible. They didn't sound this great in 77, but they do sound that great. And it's probably because they have the original bass player, Glenn Matlock,
Yes.
and, Sid Vicious looked good, but he couldn't play the bass. So now they sound great. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm an idiot. I have to see the show. So I look at the calendar. Oh, they're playing in LA next weekend. I call my buddy Samfield. I say, get us tickets. We must see the Pistols. It sounds amazing. I'm an idiot. We got to see them. He goes, oh, guess what? The first Kiss with Makeup reunion tour is Friday night, and the Pistols are playing Saturday night. Now the Pistols are playing.
Oh my God.
The Palladium in Hollywood, and KISS are playing at LA Forum, I guess in Inglewood. And I said, great. you know, he's from Michigan, my buddy Samuel. Yeah, I was like, get us tickets. We're doing double dip. We're double dipping.
Oh my God.
Kiss and the Pistols reunion weekend. Anyway, so now I didn't get to see Kiss the first time around because I was 11.
Right.
And I, you know, moved on to other things later in life, and that was that.
They were my first band that I loved and then got off the train. Like
Right.
my first band that I was like, I discovered them and I left them in the dust at some point.
Right. Well, you know, shame on us. So now I'm there. They've got a whole new era, but now they got Ace back. They got Peter Criss back somehow.
Yeah, I saw that tour.
Yeah, I went. And you got to tell you something, man. There was Paul doing the Flip Wilson, Geraldine between song banter.
right.
Fantastic. They're blowing the fire and they're spitting the blood and the pyro's massive and they're playing Black Diamond and Deuce and Cold Gin and Rock and Roll All Night. They're playing some of the other songs I could easily have, you know, gotten a beer or used the facilities during those other songs. It's life. What are you gonna do? But I got the hits. And Beth, you know, Peter Criss came out, sat on a road case, sang the power ballad Beth. Yeah, that was awesome. And then the next night we went to see the Pistols. And oh my God, I'm not exaggerating. They were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, Johnny Rotten was fully committed. They all were. It sounded great. And it was a double dip, incredible weekend. And that's the end of my Kiss story. Now, there was an Easter egg when I did this download. And I am so excited about this. So now, obviously, I'm obsessed with this 9-minute film. And then there's an Easter egg. There's all, because of the gooch, stolen from the servers, I guess. There's all the raw dailies, the footage of the entire coverage of the whole event, not just the edited 9-minute version. So I have all the outs. I got everything.
All the raw footage then?
Yeah.
So is there audio or?
Not on my raw footage, no. But it's,
Okay.
it's MOS, but that's okay. Because remember, what held the film together in its greatness originally? A Jim Neff telephone interview and
Right.
a little dub sync sound of the band playing live, and boom, you got a film.
Do you get a sense of how they filmed this? Do you see other camera people?
They're never, the cameramen were good. They weren't shooting each other. You don't see the other camera people, but the angles and coverage, what I do for a living, are flawless. They're everywhere
Okay.
they're supposed to be. And of course, in 75, that's what's so great. It's what we talked about last time about 16 millimeter handheld long lens. The technology never got better. That's why Pennebaker's David Bowie footage is the greatest. That's why the Stones Maisels footage is the greatest. That's why the Pennebaker Dylan footage is the greatest. The technology and being in the right place at the right time is magic for cinema memories. Everything takes a dump after that as soon as digital comes in and the aesthetics take a dump. So these guys had the right cameras and the right film, and that's why it's going to look great for eternity, this film. If Gene and Paul ever want to revisit this correctly and have someone who really loves and appreciates them for what they are and were, I'm throwing my hat in the ring right now if Gene and Paul are listening.
Yeah, no, Jeff, it has to be you. I will be pissed if all of a sudden there's an announcement and you're not attached to it. There's no way. I will sue them.
You know what? I would be part of that suit. I'd be part of that suit. I want to correct the ESPN version.
Exactly. Well, do you think any other band could have or would have done this in 1975?
I got to think about that. I think it was a perfect storm. I don't think there was any other band. There were obviously big bands. I mean, you know, Zeppelin around that time filmed Song Remains the Same. That's a professionally shot film, but it's a concert film. It's got some interesting dream sequences. It's not a narrative. No one took the documentary approach back then at this point in time, because it's not just like, hey, we're going to film a band. Like, that's been done. We've talked about some of those films. We're going to film an event around a band, and we don't know what's going to happen. And it was and the event was not manufactured. It was real. It was based on, it wasn't like you could see it now, like the cynical thing of cooking up an event. This was based on real fandom from an invitation from a fan from a town, CADILLAC, Michigan. There was a problem and a solution in his mind. The problem, of course, being my team, or the Bad News Bears, were losers. We're on a losing streak. How do I fix it? Big light bulb event, light bulb goes off over his head. Oh, there's only one way to fix that. Kiss. I mean, no, who would even think that? But he did. They get the invite. They're like, yeah, of course, sure, we'll be there. But they don't just show up. They bring it all. Like they weren't even there to exploit it. This footage didn't come out till like decades later.
Yeah, and the only people finding out about it would be like, what? Read it in maybe an AP, little article and something. I mean, where was this shared?
Right?
I didn't know about this.
No. I mean, maybe it had to be local news in CADILLAC, Michigan at the time, but we're not getting that. That didn't make,
Right.
New York Post or the New York Daily News, or certainly not the New York Times in 75.
Yeah, because Kiss were still not Kiss yet.
Well, they were Kiss. They just weren't,
Kiss with a
they
capital
weren't
K.
mega yet.
They were exactly.
They were becoming, it was their moment of becoming the biggest band technically in the world, I would say. I would argue,
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's why, there's still a Kiss army,
Yeah. And there will be a Kiss army long after we're gone.
Absolutely.
Have you seen any of the footage of what they're proposing to do with this hologram show?
This is all news to me. I'm kind of fascinated by the hologram idea, but only for certain artists. I didn't realize
Yes.
Kiss was thinking about this, but if anyone was really, the right artist to be hologrammed and tour forever, I mean, Kiss would be on that list. That's a match.
They announced it at their last show at Madison Square Garden. And I just was like, of course, they're ending their last show with, this is just the beginning of where we're going to be. Your grandchildren are maybe going to be into this,
Well, I mean, I've given this a lot of thought, not through AI, but through just hologram technology has always been fascinating to me. The first band ever to use hologram technology in a rock music context was, of course, Angel. They were like the dressed in white Kiss on Casablanca Records. Uh, they used a hologram. Now, once again, it wasn't a hologram of the entire show. They had a hologram up in there's a YouTube clip where you see it. It's very primitive, but they use a hologram of like this angel logo face thing in the sky as they beam themselves onto the stage. And this was Punky Meadows. So he was a visionary, Punky Meadows. He had a great haircut as well. But he was a Kiss label mate. Obviously, Angel didn't get as big as Kiss. But at the time, Casablanca was very invested in Angel being parallel to Kiss. And they put out, at least 4 records. And they, of course, unfortunately didn't make it to that level. But what was the point? Hologram technology. Yeah, it fascinates me. Now, the Ramones are, the way I see hologram technology, and I would, if Kiss is listening, I would, this is my advice. You don't want to treat this medium like a jukebox musical and put it through the meat grinder.
Absolutely.
What you want to do for the fans, and I would say this for the Ramones as well, if someone with the Ramones intellectual property is thinking about a hologram tour. What happened was the greatest live album ever recorded outside of Kiss Alive, of course, was Ramones' It's Alive. And I stand by that. What we didn't know until 10, 15 years ago was that somebody filmed that concert, Ramones' It's Alive, 16 millimeter, covered it well.
What?
And no one ever saw the footage. Yeah. Now, you want to trust me, you want to track this down. Now, I got lucky. So the Ramones in Hollywood every year were doing at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery these outdoor screenings of films. And one year I went, it was Rock and Roll High School, great film, Alan Arkish, Roger Corman.
Love it.
Next year they announced we're doing It's Alive. Somebody found the film, cut it together. They brought in an incredible sound system. What I'm trying to say is that it's classic era Ramones. It's the Ramones at their greatest. It's the Ramones in London. It's New Year's. It's when the Clash, the Pistols,
Oh my God.
all the punk bands are in the audience, and they start their bands the next day. It's the peak Ramones. It's flawless. It's produced beautifully. It's the best recording ever. But now it's on film. So they projected this at Forever Cemetery. Tommy Ramone was there, by the way. I got a photo with
Oh, that's lovely.
Tommy, one of my heroes, because he's Hungarian like myself. And it was like, now I saw the Ramones countless times, but not that era. I was too young, right? It was like it was like you might as well have been the hologram. It was like classic Coke. It was the Ramones that you'd want to just take the sampling of their exact moves, their exact images, everything about them from that show. That's the hologram show you just do. Kiss, my advice to Kiss, they can do whatever they want. You don't want to do the jukebox musical version and do every era and try to honor everybody and blah, blah, blah. It's like you'll want to shoot yourself in. You want classic Kiss hologram. That's my recommendation.
Oh, yeah, with like the little tiny candelabra behind them and everything, just, seat of the pants Kiss,
You want that version, and they can sample the film and do it that way.
Yeah.
But, if you're going to just AI it and morph it.
Yeah, I think that's where they've gone with it.
Well, that's what everybody does, unfortunately. Like, if
Yeah.
you watch the play Jersey Boys, it's fantastic. It's a great story. Now you go watch the Temptations jukebox musical. I walked out. So, like, jukebox musical, it's like anything. Anything could be a great art form. But when people just copycat and put it through the sausage mill,
Right.
you get these watered down things,
Right.
know? But I'm just saying, like, if I were Kiss, I would think about that a little bit. It's a beautiful medium. The hologram is there. And you know what? ABBA did it one way, but you can do it your own way. Who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us, right?
Yeah, I would be fascinated to see that. Because, again, just being in an audience of Kiss fans at a hologram show where the band is no longer going on, I mean, I just want to see the merch table alone. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, I honestly, what I would like to see is you merge that idea with the 70s Laser Floyd, Laser Zeppelin, and you only show the hologram show classic era in a planetarium. So you're there with the fans laying down and you're looking at the ceiling. Like, that's the show I want to be at,
Oh, look at that green square that's turning on its side. Whoa. It was good enough for me for a long time.
Sure. Now, with edibles legal everywhere, people could have an incredible time.
Exactly. I do always ask at the end of every episode the same question, but I tailor it depending on what we're talking about. And I think we know where this is going to go. But on a scale from 1 to 120 minutes, how many minutes of good Paul Stanley banter do you give this film on a scale of 1 minute of Paul banter to 120 minutes of Paul banter? Where does this film lie in that scope?
Honestly, it's kind of like in Spinal Tap where the amp goes to 11, right?
Yes.
I give it 121 minutes of Paul Stanley.
That's what I have here. That's amazing.
That's what I give it. That's from my heart. I love it. So I hope people find it.
I love that you always bring stuff to the show that many of our listeners have not heard about. I think it's fascinating that even though people come in with like a Sun City Girls VHS tape they want to talk about, that many of the things that you bring in, people have not heard of, and they get to experience it through your great love of the material. And I just want to say, I'm so excited about what is coming from you in the future. Author of the J.T. Leroy Story, one of my favorite films of all time. That film blew me away. I mean, you talked about, Tabloid and other things you love. This is incredible. It's a high watermark, Jeff. And again, like all your work, but I just wanted to say that because I feel like that's one that people may not have seen yet. They got to see it. The story is incredible, and the way you covered it and got people's trust is amazing.
Well, I really appreciate that, Chris. I really do. And I love coming on your show. I love your show. And I'm a fan, and you're a fan, and it's so much fun to chat. And, maybe in a few months we'll talk about Jandek Encore. Who knows what we're going to talk about?
Oh,
right?
my God. It's a date. Yes, I hope I see you soon, Jeff.
I hope so too, Chris. Thank you so much.